Welcome back to another week of Complete Human Performance Sports with Kenny and Anthony. I am Anthony D'Orazio, and to my left is Kenny Barber. Kenny, how you doing today?
Good man, can't complain. Happy Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
So kind of as Kenny and I were just talking offline about what we were going to talk about on this week's episode. And Kenny made the astute point that we're kind of weirdly in the doldrums of the sports season where it's more event driven, where there are specific events and fewer sports leagues. Yes, Major League Baseball is going on, but anyone that says Major League Baseball is exciting this time of year is a really big baseball fan, I guess. Um, so let's start. The big thing that is happening, or I guess the first announcement, for those of you that do have tuned in weekly, thank you very much. But next week, we are not going to have an episode. And I am the cause of this lack of episode because my wife and I are actually not going to be around. So we are traveling for a little bit for a week. Please don't rob my house. Yeah, so we are not going to have an episode next week. Apologies in advance. But you guys, I'm sure everyone can deal with 1 week without our smiling faces. But the big thing that will be happening next week that we thought we'd get into first here is the start of maybe, potentially, the Summer Olympics, the 2020 slash 2021 Summer Olympics.
Some sort
So
of
Kenny,
Olympics.
what's going on with the Summer Olympics?
Well, so yeah, there's already reports coming out that there's COVID cases popping up everywhere. Even one of the U.S. alternate gymnasts, one of their alternates has tested positive, and it's I'm sure they have tons of protocols, but it's already kind of already happening. What we were kind of fearing that we might have some half teams, half not half, but some big parts missing. Hopefully, that's not the case. Imagine the U.S. women's Olympic team without certain people performing. That would be terrible. Or any of the big teams, without their main people. The USA basketball team's heading over there, so it's just like. And again, I'm a big wrestling guy. I'm like, keep them away from everybody. I want to see some good freestyle matches, and you know what I mean. So, it's almost like our worst fears are coming true right in front of our eyes. But I mean, hopefully it doesn't get that bad. Hopefully, maybe it's just a couple cases here and there. But they are traveling. They're in big groups. It's not surprising.
Yeah, I mean, you have big groups. You have athletes that are sort of by definition younger athletes, right? They're mostly in their 20s, probably a few, 30-year-olds. And we know that group has, at least here in the U.S., sort of been more hesitant to get vaccinated. I don't know, what the vaccination rate is among Olympians in the U.S. I hope it's high. We've also unfortunately had a slow rollout of the vaccine in, outside of the U.S. Right? The U.S. we've had access to the vaccine. The last like 2.5 months, you could just walk in anywhere and basically get the vaccine if you want it. Right there, you haven't even needed to even wait. Right? You just walk in and get it. Other parts of the world that has not been the case. It's been a much slower rollout. And I think us in the U.S. forget that. It's easy to sort of take for granted how quickly we got the vaccine here. So you have sort of the disparity. So to me, I see two problems. I see the slower rollout of the vaccine throughout the world is probably the major problem, and then you also just have vaccine hesitancy, which we mentioned in this show before, which neither of us really understands. Especially at this point when you've had millions of people get vaccinated, fine. And you combine those things with behavior between people that are probably, if you're traveling, you're an athlete, you're at the sort of height of your physical prowess. Right? We know there's a lot of sex at the Olympics. It's historically always been the case. It's not surprising. You have good-looking people that are in shape, that are at the right age for that to be happening.
Well, I was going to bring that up. I saw a news story that said they are using cardboard beds to discourage sexual activity between Olympic athletes. And I'm reading it. I'm like, wait, did I just read that correctly? And yes, I read it again. I'm like, wow, okay. I didn't really understand that because you don't need to have a bed to have sex, but that's nowhere near there. But it was an interesting take, I thought. But yeah, like you're saying, close quarters, young people, very fit, people who are in their, I guess, early, a lot of early 20s probably. Um, so yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I just hope it doesn't get too bad. That's all. I really don't, because I mean, generally speaking, most of them probably won't experience too bad of symptoms, or maybe none at all. Most of the time at that age group, you're not going to see anything too bad, especially for super fit, healthy people. But they're not going to be able to
But
compete.
it's also a
Yep.
case where you have it's potentially super spreader. Right? It'd be really bad for Japan, obviously, but then you will
Hmm.
have all these people returning home, right?
Going
And
back, yeah.
so if all of a sudden you're with a cohort from your country that is your cohort your country's doing really well, no one in your cohort of Olympic athletes is infected, you're fine. All of a sudden you come into contact because you compete with someone, they're infected, you get infected, right? And you bring that home.
Yeah.
Right? We've been through this song and dance once already, and yeah, of course, with the vaccination rates, increasing, hopefully, it won't be as bad. But still, exactly, there are parts, populations that cannot be vaccinated for various medical reasons. So you have to protect them. So yeah, I agree. Hopefully, what we've seen is all we see, right? That's the best case scenario. We don't get any more positive tests. I think that's unlikely. I think there'll, just naturally be a few more positive tests. Um, but hopefully that's it, and it stays well contained. And
And it's even
they're
even
obviously,
that's like the contact tracing, right? Because then if
yeah,
okay, so and so has it, all right, who was around that person, and then maybe you lose those people, right? It can just kind of snowball from there if it happens like competition week, right? Um, and I think the soccer is starting soon, isn't it? Is it like the first thing that's starting? If I think someone posted that I saw that it should be.
it might be
I forget what I saw. Some of the prelims for
Olympics
soccer.
21 start. Oh, schedule. Let's see schedule.
And I know the basketball has been playing some, even though they've been losing a lot, they've been playing some exhibition type stuff already too against,
Sucked.
yeah, against other countries. I mean, they are
They
missing some
stink.
guys, but yeah, it's still like
So it looks like Google's not helping me very much
not
here.
helping you.
Yeah, it looks like archery starts this Thursday actually.
Okay.
Let's see here. Yeah, it's Wednesday. Okay, what are they? All right, I found the Tokyo NBCOlympics.com. Let's see here. 21st date. Yeah, it looks like soccer kicks off on maybe Wednesday, maybe Tuesday.
Okay.
Oh, day. All right, that's day -2. So soccer starts on day -2. Friday is day 0. So I think that's opening ceremonies, right? That has to, yeah.
Gotcha.
I think that has to be opening ceremonies. So yeah, so hopefully things can progress. It looks like I'm skimming through this very quickly to see when the major events are. Where's track and field? Track and field looks like it starts kind of the second week, so it starts like Friday the 30th, and then kind of runs that second week, which is good. So I'll be able to watch more of it than I would have otherwise. Looks
Yeah.
like wrestling. I know Kenny, you're a big wrestling fan. Starts on Sunday the 1st, maybe somewhere about there. It looks like.
So like 2 weeks
Yeah,
almost.
continues for the next like 6 days. Yeah,
And right now is the actual the youth. It's called Fargo. It's like the 16 and under national freestyle
it is.
championship.
That's what's been popping up on my. So for whatever reason, Flow Wrestling is something that pops up on my YouTube, and
Yeah.
I like watch some of the videos. I watch Flow Grappling stuff, and I watch Flow Wrestling, and so I've been watching some of the Flow Wrestling stuff, and I was like, I didn't even know what I was watching. I don't even know what age group these people are who are
Yeah,
watching.
it's the youth national freestyle in Fargo. It's a huge basically high school level tournament. Uh, so that's been going on the last couple
Yeah, I
of
saw
years,
some
I
Mason
believe.
guy that apparently is very good to lose. He got tech
Yeah,
fault.
yeah, Mason Gibson, young guy. I think he was a freshman in high school this year. I think he lost in the state finals in PA. I think that was in regular, folk style wrestling. Um, but just, I mean, a freshman, he's a freak. He's gonna be a D1 wrestler. That's like no doubt already. But yeah, he lost. He was actually winning with like 40 some seconds left, and he got
Yeah.
teched.
Yeah.
Just that's how quick freestyle can change. Though you change one thing and you roll them a few times and get 4 points and you win. It's like it's pretty crazy how quick freestyle can change. But the U.S. freestyle, the world, or I don't know if it's the world championships, but the school age or high school age, youth age, I don't know what they call it. That's going on now as well. So there's some guys there too right now.
Okay.
I forget what they're competing, but and they had four out of the 5 weight classes that wrestled today. The U.S. made the final, and then there's a bunch more tomorrow.
So here's an unrelated.
Well.
Here's a question for you, Kenny. So for the listeners out there that don't know this, which I think it is probably many listeners if you don't follow wrestling, and I barely know this. So high school wrestling in the U.S. is folk style, but Olympic wrestling is freestyle, and collegiate still folk style, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So why? Obviously, we have a lot of wrestling here in the States. Why do we set it up so that we have folk style wrestling through college, and then all of a sudden you have to transition to a completely different rule set?
It's a great question.
It's like, is there I don't know, is that like a historical thing, or I don't know what the reason
I don't know the actual, and that's something I can look up too because it's a really good question. It's debated a lot. Like why people ask it all the time. Why do we wrestle this style and then the rest of the world wrestles, freestyle mostly? But there is Greco-Roman style and folk style at the Olympics and at other world events. It just doesn't get as much. What's the word I'm looking for? As much buzz as the freestyle. Personally, I like regular folk style wrestling better than freestyle due to what I just talked about. I think it's more, but like in freestyle, this one move changes everything, and then all of a sudden it's a tech fall and the match is over in like 10 seconds, right? So it's like, I like folk style because it's, I think it's more balanced. I think most of the time the better person wins. I think sometimes in freestyle, you catch somebody in something and, like I said, next thing you know, you scored 10 points and the match is over. There's no real ground wrestling in freestyle. It's more stand-ups and rolls and that kind of stuff where I like pinning combinations. But that's what I grew up doing personally. And that's what I like watching in college. I love collegiate wrestling. And then you'll see a guy that, say maybe he won a national title in college and he goes to freestyle and somebody whoops him and tech falls the guy. But everybody makes a big deal about tech fall. It's first of all, I think it's only 10-0 in freestyle, where it's 15-0 in folk, or up by 10. But it can happen so quickly. It's like, oh, that guy got teched, and it's like, yeah, but he just, like you said, that kid was winning with like 44 seconds left, and just all of a sudden, a move happened. You roll them a few times, you get points every time you roll them, and then the match is over. So why it is like that, it is a great question. It's kind of like, why do we like to use pounds versus kilos with weightlifting? Maybe it's just always been that way here, and that's just what, when you look at the big states like PA, Jersey, California, Arizona's having a good tournament right now, like all huge folk style wrestling. So it'd be a good question to look up and see like what the actual reason is. But yeah, it's like, but we always do well, I think, at world competitions because most good that level wrestlers are going to be wrestling both anyway. But you will see sometimes guys will struggle that are really good. Maybe they don't wrestle freestyle as much. So no, it's a good debate. It's a good question. One of my friends always asks me about it. He always says that, why don't we wrestle freestyle everywhere instead of folk style? He hates ground wrestling, and so
yeah, I can't decide which one. I mean, so it's weird. Watching it, I think I prefer freestyle because it's more exciting. Like more stuff happens.
There's some
and
big moves. They're forced to wrestle more actually.
Yeah, there's like more takedowns. Like I feel like I found like a lot of times with folk style, it seems like there's a lot of stalling to me. Whereas as a spectator, I'm like, all right, like this is just a stall position. Like you're clearly just stalling here. it's weird as someone that's grappled in his past for quite a few years. I can't tell which one teaches worse habits though for like actual grappling, right? In terms of like giving up your back. Like wrestling teaches some terrible habits for actual like submission wrestling that
Yeah.
you would never just give up your back the way you do, the way you have to do for the rule set in wrestling. But you know, with that in mind, which one, like if I'm see a flow wrestling video, if it's freestyle, I know I'm going to see a lot of action and it's going to be like a lot of shots and a lot of stuff happening. Um, so I think
Yeah,
that's
there
more
there are
targeted.
some things that drive me crazy about regular folk style wrestling, and it is sometimes the lack of action. I think they can change some rules to fix that, but whether they do or not, I feel like 80% of the time you get a takedown and the guy gets right back up. So you really only got 1 point for your takedown, right? Because you get a point for the escape, 2 point for takedown, plus one for you. And you'll see guys take guys down a couple of times, and but they're only up 2-3 points, and then next thing you know, the guy comes right back and he's right back in it. So it's like, I don't know, maybe another point for a takedown would be a good thing. There's a lot of ankle grabbing to stall. Like it's an immediate thing that guys are doing now. They get shot on and they reach behind, grab an ankle, and just hold on. And it's like, then it gets stalemate and they start over again. There's a lot of stuff like that drives me nuts. Um, Guys are so funky and get out of. There's so much funk now in college wrestling where guys are getting out of like really good shots, but basically by stalemating, right? And then they stand them back up. So it's stuff like that kind of drives me crazy because I think they could push the action more. Like, hey, maybe you're not allowed to grab ankles in that situation, or it's But we'll see. I mean, they're always working to make it better. I do love watching that D1 national championship. It's one of my favorite events every year. But freestyle is cool too. Like you said, it's a lot of action. They have like shot clocks, and like you gotta create your own action or
Yeah,
they'll just start
yeah,
like.
you
And
got to
there's
go.
push outs, like you got about out of bounds. There's like push out rules for points, and
Yeah, I
they are
like that
getting
in
better.
freestyle.
Yeah, they're getting better with the folk style too, with like guys fleeing the mat, guys trying to get out of bounds so they don't get taken down. Like they'll bang you with stalling or stuff like that. So it is. They are working on it. So hopefully it just continues to be a better product because I do love wrestling. I love watching it. So, but I'll definitely be checking out the freestyle stuff too. Exciting sport. Like lots of throws and you know some crazy
Good
stuff
stuff.
happens in those matches. Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, so Olympics obviously starting in the next week, and then the other big thing we figured we'd talk about. So obviously, outside the COVID debacle with the Olympics, would be the Milwaukee Bucks. Much to both of our surprises, I think, are ahead in the series. They're up three
Yeah.
two, won Game 5 in Phoenix. Coming back from I think it was a 16-point deficit they were down. It was like 32-16, I know, in the first quarter. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden they come back and hold off the Suns to take a 3-2 lead. What were your thoughts?
Well, first off, I never thought either team would win 3 games in a row. Like I just didn't
That's
think
true.
that was possible. You know, just due to the fact that like we know Milwaukee when their guys aren't scoring, they're gonna have a bad game, right? We know that. As far as Middleton and Holiday, um, and they've just been consistently inconsistent with that, right? So it was crazy to see them win 3 in a row. I thought maybe they win both at home, but then I'm like, Phoenix coming home, they're not going to lose this game, and they came out like gangbusters. They were up big. They were just going crazy, scoring at will, and then all of a sudden I look at halftime, and there's Suns are still up, and the next thing I know it's the fourth, and I'm checking the score, and Milwaukee's winning. I'm like, whoa, what happened here? Uh, but I guess it comes down to Giannis. We know he does what he does, but they've just been a strong defensive team, throughout the playoffs, and to be able to hold the Suns in check, I think it's really impressive. Because they have so many weapons as far as like multiple guys that can score the ball. But it's been interesting. I just can't believe they won 3 in a row here. I'm really surprised. And now it goes back to Milwaukee for a chance to close out. So, and now of course the Suns will win this game. That's just I can't imagine them winning 4 straight against the Suns. I don't think they've lost 4 straight all year. I would be surprised to see that, but seen stranger things happen in the playoffs. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I think that it was surprising, especially in Phoenix. I thought they would once Phoenix had that big lead. I didn't think. I thought they'd make a run because that always,
It always
the
happens
down
in the
team
NBA.
always makes a run in the
Yeah,
NBA. Yes, but I didn't. I was like, this is probably over. But I kept it on in the kind of the background, and then second half I'm like, oh, this game's gotten pretty close, and then they took the lead. I'm like, they're playing pretty well right now, and Giannis I think had like 40 points. I mean Booker's out of his mind for
yeah,
Phoenix.
he's
I mean
great.
he's been playing out of his mind this entire series. So I think he had like in the 30s or 40 point level, about, and then Drew Holiday I think found a way to make an impact even though he didn't necessarily shoot particularly well that game. I mean, why they gave him the last was the shot he missed right before the steal. Like why he was taking that shot instead of either Middleton or Giannis having the ball was very confusing to me because he took a terrible shot.
Yeah,
Was not good. I mean, he obviously made up for it with the steal. That led to the alley oop to Giannis,
which
which
was
was
crazy.
great. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
a phenomenal defensive play by Holiday. Phenomenal pass to Giannis to finish, and it was like a very big exclamation point. So yeah, I mean, it was impressive. They managed to do. I think it really comes down to their defense. Like obviously Booker is going to get his points because there's been times like they've played phenomenal defense on him and he still hits some jumper with some
yeah.
dude's hand right here. It's like all right, well
I
you
think
can't really stop that.
to me that's been the for me the highlight of the playoffs is just seeing him play. I never really. I'm just oh Booker had 60 points, and I never really get to watch the guy. West
Yeah, because
Coast
he's
team,
West Coast. Yeah,
yeah, seeing him play, a couple of times a week has man, that guy is an exciting player. He is really good. And we mentioned the USA team not doing very good right now, but they are missing Booker, Holiday, and Middleton, so they'll all be on the team once the series is over um, for the U.S. in the Olympics. So hopefully that makes a little difference for them because they have not been
yeah,
very good so far.
yeah. Booker had 40 points,
Yeah,
the game five. Yeah, but I think what
he's just
Milwaukee's done is they've sort of limited everyone else, right? Like the next highest score is Paul had 21, Aiton had 20, and then it's 13 for Bridges, 10 for Crowder, and
yeah.
the bench players had 15 total, right? So they're limiting guys enough, I think, and they're
Well,
getting. I
keeping
mean,
the bench in check, keeping the bench in check too. I mean, that's big. 15 points from your bench is right.
yeah, and their own bench had let's see here, 23. So their bench
Yeah,
outscored them. So it's getting more contribution. I mean, I said Holiday didn't play that well, but he did have 27 on 12 of 20 shooting, so I guess he played pretty well.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's. I think Game 6 here. Is it? It'll be the day after this episode comes out, so it'll be Wednesday night. Man, the Bucks have just been
What's your
so good at home.
What's your prediction?
Uh,
Make a stand.
I'm gonna say Bucks take it in 6. I mean I agree with you that it's really hard to see Phoenix winning, losing 4 straights. But at the same time, the Bucks have just been so good at home. And I think they've lost one game in the playoffs at home. I think they're like 10-1 or something at home. They're on a roll. They've got Giannis seems to be back to near 100%.
Yes, that is
And I
another
think
factor.
they figured out a way to kind of like limit, to attack the Phoenix defensively, right? To sort of limit them, enough where that Middleton and Holiday contributes, and they always contribute more at home. They always play better at home. I'm going to say Phoenix or Milwaukee takes it in 6, but I think it's close. I don't think they run away with it. I think Phoenix will fight tooth and nail.
Yeah, I'm going to go with nothing making sense. Middleton and Holiday have a terrible game, and only because I want to see it go to Game 7, I'm picking the Suns to win. And I, if they lose
I will
four in
not
a
be
row,
surprised.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either way either. But I
Yeah.
just can't see them losing 4 in a row. Like they're going to do something different. They have to. Right? Clearly, they haven't been doing well. But yeah, we'll see though. And if it doesn't, I mean, it's been a good series either way. Anytime it
Yeah,
goes to
no,
six,
it's
7 games, it's they've been some good games. So,
It's been intense, which is cool.
and if anything, I think Phoenix has kind of asserted themselves as a really good up and coming team. Either way, we knew Giannis and the Bucks have been there the last few years, right on the cusp, and then Phoenix had that good finish in the bubble last year, and then really played well this year. So,
Yeah,
as long
absolutely.
as. But I think another story too we can mention is where's Dame going? It's a big topic this week. I've seen a lot of
Ooh.
articles about. I even saw a scenario of him in the Warriors, and it all made sense. I was like, at first, I was like, what? Uh, like, how would they get him? But they have all these options, including 2 first-round picks this year, and being able to send like Wiggins and Jameis Winston, or not Jameis Winston, Wiseman, the first-round pick, not Jameis Winston. He's a quarterback. Wiseman, who was their first pick last year. So they have a lot of like, and they'd be giving up a lot of their future, right? But obviously trying to win now. But he's also expressed interest in the Knicks and the Sixers, East Coast contenders. There have been a lot of scenarios with the Sixers, but one was with McCollum for Simmons, basically, which, I mean, after Simmons' playoffs, I would take McCollum over Simmons, but that's just me. Uh, so it's going to be very interesting to see where he ends up because I feel like it could definitely change, the balance of power, especially in the East. Because you figure if
Yeah.
Brooklyn's healthy next year, if all their guys are healthy, they're going to be really tough to beat, right? Let's be honest. They lost because all they had left was Durant. They were basically missing Harden and Irving, and so they're going to be tough to beat. But you bring in a guy like Dame to one of those teams, and the Knicks had a decent finish to the year. They made the playoffs. But we
And
already
they've
know what
got
the
a really
Sixers have.
good. The Knicks have a really good young core.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Randall had a great year. And, already add him to the Sixers where you already have Embiid and Harris and Curry and, some really solid pieces. And they were really just missing out on what happened with Simmons. I mean, you had Dame Lillard into that role.
Just all they were missing was a point guard that could shoot.
Yeah, that could make a free throw at any point. Just one. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take that trade. Uh, but the Sixers turned down a good trade a couple of weeks ago. And I was really surprised. They could have got Brogdon and um, I think it was a first rounder just for Simmons. And I thought that was a really good trade, but they said no. But now they are open. Brogdon was like a 21 and 6 guy last year. Very good, player who's shoots 88 to 92% from the free throw line. Very good as well. Not as big, clearly. He's a 6'5 guy. Simmons is 6'11. Defensively, you lose a little bit there. But, I think the Sixers have a really good defensive team anyway. So, but we'll see what happens. So the trades are going to be interesting, I think, especially to see where Dame ends up. But the scenario of him with Curry and Klay Thompson, I was like, oh, God.
I mean, you have to defend the entire half court.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
you
don't
basically
know.
have to do that now. But
Well, just range wise, all 3 of them could shoot from anywhere. Like where do you pick up? Like you said, you stand a half court and pick up
yeah,
in there. So that was interesting to me. But the scenario made sense when I read it. I was like, wait, how are they going to pull that off? But I didn't realize they had 2 first round picks this year, and I think I want to say it's like number 5 and number 14. Like they have some decent picks this year. So a lot of leverage there on their part, and maybe even if it's not him, maybe they get someone else. I mean, you never know.
yeah.
So
No, I think where Dame goes is a question. I mean, even if he stays in Portland, which I think is unlikely, but if he does stay, I certainly don't think he'll stay if they stay the same team. Right? I think the Portland is going to have to make a move or two
yeah,
to try and keep him happy because I mean he's shown that he can only drag them so far, and that him and if he's an A player like on a tier list, if he's an A player, CJ McCollum's good, but I don't think he's great. Like I think he's like a B plus player, and I think you need like
he's
another
a
A.
he's a great piece, is what I would
Yeah,
call it. Yeah, he's a
that's a
great. I
good way
mean,
to
he's a
put it.
great player, right? But he's not.
He's
He's
not like
not
the elite of the
KD.
elite.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's not Giannis, KD, Curry, Dame, those type of guys. Um, so it's going to be interesting to see how that all ends up. But I saw a lot of things like he's just tired of being the guy that's being loyal and losing every year in the first or second round. And then I saw people like, oh, why would you rather have him over Simmons? He lost in the first round this year. I'm like, yeah, but look at his team. Like Dame doesn't have Embiid in the middle. Like,
Have you not watched the two of them play?
yeah, like come on, they're on two different planets. And imagine like that kind of inside outside game
Oh, it's
having.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's same with like the Knicks got him with Randall inside, and they'd probably have to give up Barrett or somebody like that, but I'm sure they would gladly offload him, for a guy like Damian Lillard. So, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how that changes the whole dynamic of the league. But yeah, we know the Suns. I think they're in it for a few years. They're going to be tough. I don't, Chris Paul is older, but
I mean, he seems to have played himself into another big contract.
Yeah.
He's played well enough. So it's pretty crazy because I think he's like 36, 37 years old.
Yeah, I was going to say you might probably see him play for a couple more years at least at a higher level. I don't see why not. He seems like he stays in good shape and takes care of himself. So
he seems to enjoy it. Like he doesn't seem like he hates playing.
Yeah, and it's not like he's like falling apart or averaging 5 points a game and struggling to start. Like he's still elite in that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. What else happened this week? I guess we did have the home run derby and the All-Star game.
Yeah, that was actually I forgot about that. It was actually pretty impressive to watch.
I actually did not watch any of it. I forget what I was doing, but I didn't watch any of it. I heard it was really good though.
Yeah, it was more like of a speed up type scenario where it kind of took a little fitness. They were getting like a minute and a half at a time to hit as many home runs as possible, and then they would get a short break, and then there was another 30 seconds or something like that. And man, Alonso he's so good at hitting home runs. Yeah, I mean, there was some great competition, but he was on fire again. That's 2 years in a row he won it. So shout out to him for kicking butt. I mean, he's a baseball type guy, watching them guys do that. Like I see guys do that with softball, right? I play with some really talented, high level softball guys that can hit home runs whenever they want. But to see it in baseball and see them hitting it 400 plus feet and they were tired. These guys are out of breath. like they were working, and the funny part is the Mets, his pitching coach, I think he was like, I forget how old he was, but he was just throwing like perfectly and he was getting a workout too. I mean, these guys are just like firing. And you see how good these guys are, what they do as far as like the BP pitcher, right? He's probably been doing it for 50 years at this point. So I thought that was cool too. Even after it happened, a lot of my friends were posting like the BP pictures, the GOAT. Like he threw perfect pitches every time. So that was fun to watch actually. Some of them times when things drag on too long, it's too slow, and I think it's better that they sped it up a little bit this year. And there's some really impressive performances. So that was pretty good. Oh, and you mentioned Tour de France.
Yes, Tour de France. Yeah, so just one note about Pete Alonso before we move on to Tour de France. I find it crazy that he earned more money in that one night than he did for the entire year, because his salary for the year is like $600K, and like winning the home run derby was $1 million.
Yeah, so, and that Bobby Bonilla still makes more money than him every year.
Every July 1st or whatever it is.
Yeah. And how is it? I mean, he's gonna get a monster contract soon. He has to, right? It was like Trout when Trout finally got his. I mean, but that guy's really good.
Yeah, so Tour de France finished up. Tadej Pogačar, as expected, won. He ended up, they had some really big mountain stages the last week, and he just dominated. He won 2 stages in a row and just put his stamp on the tour. Basically, it made it so there was absolutely no doubt. I think his winning time was like 5 minutes, right, over the next closest rival. So super, super impressive. He might. It's been a while since anyone in cycling has dominated the tour. for multiple years, and he's won it now 2 years in a row. He won it last fall because it was added abnormal time because of COVID, the pandemic. They did it in the fall instead of normal like July, uh, and he won it this year. So 2 years in a row, and like no one seems to be close. Right? He seems, it doesn't seem like his team was like the driving force. Like sometimes you get a guy that dominates, but like his team is like really good and it kind of drags him. Like he has like one or two good stages and then the team drags him along. No, Tadej Pogacar's team they were fine. Like they're a good team, but they weren't like the old U.S. Postal Service, with Lance Armstrong, where that
Yeah.
team just dominated. Like Lance was incredible at the time for many reasons, but his team was also extremely good, right? Whereas Pogacar's team's good, but it's not like necessarily much better than any other team. Like if you take out Pogacar, take out every other team's top guy. So he's just better than everyone, and so it's a question that it's worth asking: is he, is this the sort of next dominating force for the next couple of years in the tour? And the answer is probably yes. Barring injury or something crazy happening. Based on what we saw this year and last fall, probably yes. Like I don't think anyone's close to him. I will say another shout out to Wout van Aert. I'm probably saying his name horribly wrong. So if he's watching, I don't know why I would be, but apologies, Wout. He ended up winning the sprint on the final stage on the Champs-Élysées in Paris, and he won the sprint stage. He won the time trial the day before. So on Saturday there was a second time trial. So he won the time trial, which is where you just ride by yourself. There's no teamwork allowed. And then he also won a mountain stage. So he won a mountain stage, a sprint stage, and a time trial stage. I would argue I won't say he's the best cyclist in the world because Pogacar is probably the best, but I would say he's probably the most exciting, right? Because I don't think Pogacar can necessarily win a sprint. He's not bad in the sprint, but I don't think he can win a sprint like in a true sprint stage. Whereas Van Aert can't. So he's kind of like the jack of all trades. I posted on my Facebook that he's the sort of newer, younger, better version of Sagan. Right? Sagan obviously had a bad tour. He abandoned because of the crash he had on day one where he got taken out by Caleb Ewan. But he never, even then he didn't seem to have his legs underneath him. He certainly didn't have them last year. It seemed like his fitness wasn't where it normally is. So hopefully he's able to come back from that. But yeah, Wout van Aert, probably the most exciting cyclist in the world right now. Really, really cool.
As you said, it's impressive to be able to win different stages like that. And
yeah, such different skill sets and like what type of rider they're catering to, right? Where it's a sprint, you're like looking at like sort of like absolute power output versus mountain stage where it's sort of power to weight ratio that really, really matters. And sort of a sustained power.
And just pure grit at that point.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
How much can you suffer, in a stage like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think too, like it brings up some interesting debates maybe for another time, but about like Lance and his domination and, was his team was he that good? Did his team help him that much? All those things. We know that team was great, right? And then they're famous for how great they were. Was everyone else blood doping too? Probably, or most of them. The top guys. So can you fault him for that? I don't know. It's a whole debate too. But seeing, like you said, this guy whose team is just a decent team, right? But seeing him how dominant he is, is that even more impressive at this point? So it's a good debate too. It's kind of like Barry Sanders running behind the Detroit Lions offensive line versus Emmitt Smith running behind the Cowboys offensive line. It's like I'm probably taking Barry Sanders, right, overall. But Emmitt Smith worked with what he had and he did a great job at it. So you know what I mean? It's a cool debate when you think about it and think about when was cycling at its probably most famous in the U.S. anyway, was when Lance was winning multiple years in a row. And I think the sport was so kind of tainted after that for a while, and everybody was like, oh, but then it's like I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, guys, look at baseball. like, like these guys are using stuff. Like, let's just be honest.
It's
you know.
weird. I don't know. It's interesting where people are willing to turn a blind eye and where they're not willing to. And I think the
Yeah.
biggest thing with Lance was just, to me, I think one thing, like if he was just been like they would have asked if he was doping after he retired. He was like, yeah, I was doping.
Yeah.
Everyone was doping. I
Yeah.
think everyone would have been like, all right, makes sense. Like we had the
Yeah.
same thing in baseball. Fine. The fact that he like lied so much about it and then like
Yeah. That was
actively
the
tried
worst part.
to,
Yeah.
the fact that he actively like went to damage other people's lives and like ruin other people's lives, like that's why I think he's so disliked, right? That's why to me I'm like,
Yep.
dude, if you would have just either not said anything or just admitted to it, I don't give a shit. I don't even care that you did it, but the fact you actively went and like tried to ruin people for saying that you did it because they knew you did it, and you're like, no, I didn't. I'm going to ruin your life
Yeah.
because you were in a position of power. That's really messed up, man.
That was
So
the really bad part of it. Like,
yeah,
and look, I'm not gonna like be like, oh, he was the only one that was doing it. Like, clearly, he was
no,
doing it for a reason, and
no
he
lie.
was, yeah, he was that good, right? He was the guy. Just like in baseball, like the hitters are well, I'm sure the pitchers were using too. So, it, it can help everybody. Like, let's be honest, in that sort of setting, right? You're talking about elite athletes working for millions of dollars, like trying to get big contracts. You get one good year and you get that big contract. So, yeah, it's a cool topic. And who knows what's out there now? Nobody knew what that was back then, except the guys doing it. I was like, what?
Yeah.
They dope your blood? What do I was like, I didn't know what they were talking about. So it's hopefully, like I said, when I was a kid, I really loved watching that Tour de France stuff. It was really cool to me. And again, I told you my experience last week with watching it, but it's a little confusing. But I still love the event, right? We said there's a lot of events right now, and it's a cool event, and it's a great tradition, I think, that they do every year. Stuff like that you hope lasts forever, right? You see a lot of events not happening or getting canceled after a while, but seeing things like Wimbledon and Tour de France and the Olympics, like I love that stuff. Even in a downtime of the year, per se, with the big sports, because really, I mean, basketball isn't normally happening right now.
No.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost in August here. Usually, basketball's over by like June or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
early,
same with
mid June,
hockey.
like June 10th.
Yeah, this is like you figure like July, August. It's just baseball. That's the only big sport, and then it's just events, right? So, but a cool event nonetheless. I like the tour. It's a cool sport.
Speaking of events, before we wrap up for today, congratulations to Colin Morikawa for winning the British Open in golf the day before we recorded this. So he's got 2 major wins in the last year, and it's like no one's talking about him. I guess people are talking about him now, but he kind of like no one was predicting him to do. When you looked at predictions for this event, no one was like, "Oh yeah, we should probably pay attention to this guy." Yeah, but he comes out, and, shoots, 15. Let's see, make sure I got this right. 15 under
Minus
par for the
15,
tournament.
yeah.
Yeah, like
In
wins
the
by 2
course though, too,
strokes.
I feel like a lot of times in that course, or a lot of years in that course is just tough, right? It's open. There's a lot of wind, a lot of
A ton
weather.
of wind.
Yeah, so it's like seeing scores like that. It's like, oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so I mean, he's really young, 24 years old. So probably really bright
Yeah,
future for him. Probably, maybe, it's always hard to say like who's the next dominant force in golf.
yeah,
If there can be a dominant force in golf because golf is such a fickle sport. But
yeah,
2 majors in a year, he's off to a great start. So congrats to him.
yeah, man. That's I mean, you win 1 major in a year. It's impressive. Yeah,
Exactly. When
winning
one
2
major in
is
your career, you're happy.
yeah. I mean, hey, he won a major. It's it's nothing to shake a stick at, man. That's good stuff. Winning 2. And I did mention too, Djokovic is going for the golden super duper grand
Super slam.
slam of tennis. Yeah, whatever it's called, something where you win all the grand slams for tennis and then win the Olympics as well. Which I don't see anybody beating him, but we'll see. That would be cool. I think maybe Serena did it or somebody like that has done it before.
It wouldn't
Golden,
surprise me.
super
Is it like
golden.
in a career or like in the same year?
I think it's in the same year because when you win all four in the same year, it's called something,
Let's see if she. Let's
and
see.
then
Check
if you
out
win your
Serena's Wikipedia page and see. Oh, she's done so much. Her Wikipedia page is like 17 feet long here.
yeah,
God.
Google Super Duper Golden Ticket Grand
Grand
Slam.
Slam.
Yeah,
Serena, you've done so much in your life. All right, here we go.
I'm pretty sure she won Olympics.
Yeah, I can't find her Olympic results. Oh well, you can look it up on your own, listener out
Yeah.
there. It's not that hard. Well, apparently it's hard because we're not seeing it right away, but I'm sure it's not that hard to actually look at if you're not trying to do two things at once. So I think that's everything for today. Obviously, this coming week we have sort of the end of the NBA Finals, the start of the Olympics. Reminder: no episode from us next week, so vacation time for us. You enjoy your vacation time. Hopefully, I know a lot of people go on vacation around this time of year. So if you're traveling, be safe and enjoy it. Kenny, you got anything else to say?
Nah, just have fun this week. Hopefully, the Olympics are on and good, and yeah, hope you have a nice vacation as well. I'm sure we'll be chatting though before then.
Yes, we will definitely be chatting. Hit the like, subscribe button below, all that fun stuff that helps us in some way, vaguely. I think I don't know. It would be good, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Peace out.
See you guys.